and welcome to the Two Robbies Podcast, your destination for in-depth discussion and analysis of the Premier League. I'm Robbie Mustoe, he's Robbie Earle, and here are today's topics. Chelsea and Arsenal battling out to a 1-1 draw in a bruising and tense match between the two London clubs. Pep Guardiola loses 4 consecutive matches for the first time in his managerial career after Brighton come back from behind to stun Man City at the Amex. And Arne Slot continues his humming start to life at Liverpool, leading the Reds to a 5-point lead at the top of the table after a 2-0 win against Aston Villa. That's what we have coming up in today's episode.
Okay, mate. Well, drawn the packed weekend, top and bottom of the table. I mean, incredible stuff. We've got to sort of Stamford Bridge, I suppose, a big weekend. Yep. The blue chip game of the weekend was Stamford Bridge. Chelsea facing Arsenal, Chelsea team that has probably gone beyond certainly my expectations, but some expectations with the start they've had. An Arsenal team that's, I would say, that's not quite been maybe as consistent as we thought. So a big London derby, Rob. I suppose my headline, my first line out of the game was the only winner in this game was Liverpool, because these two teams both shared a point. There's now, was it a 9-point gap between them and the likes of Arsenal, who are expected to challenge, and Chelsea, who maybe for some haven't expected, but you'd have to say are part of the title race as we go into the international break. But in terms of the game, Rob, I actually thought a draw was about the fairish result. Didn't think either team quite did enough in terms of the football they played, in terms of, I think Tim made a point like earning the right to play, doing what they do to score goals and get goals. I thought both teams weren't quite at it, although it was still a really kind of back and forth, blood and thunder London derby.
Who's happier, Rob? I could throw it right back at you. Who's happier after that game? Because I know Liverpool, they'll be delighted with that, but let's get to these two teams and the matchup. Who's happier at the end of the game?
Well, on the basis of 10 games played before, the position they were in and the form they're in, you would think, you should say Chelsea, being the home team, should be the happier. I believe that Arsenal would feel playing somewhere near their levels, with Martin Odegaard back in the team, wanting to, the start of this season was about Arsenal winning a title, going one better than they have over the last couple of years. So with that in mind, I'd have to feel that Arsenal would feel they could go to Chelsea and get the 3 points that they would have wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a fascinating game. I did think it was super tense, excited to see it. It felt big, Rob, for me. It felt big. It felt like consequential. It felt like Arsenal had to do something. I know many people out there believe that they had to win the game. I can't say that in first week or whatever of November. So I still think there's a long way to go. I still think there's points to be dropped all over the league table. I think the important thing for me, two big takeaways for me, Rob. First off on Chelsea, is that Arsenal were full strength. And I know that Odegaard's been out for a while, and we'll get to him and how good he was. But they're full strength. And Chelsea, kind of went toe to toe.
Weren't Chelsea? Was this a full strength Chelsea,
yes.
though? Who would come in?
Full strength.
So you're saying both are probably
absolutely
maybe not quite on top of the game, but the best 11 players or best 11 players they'd won out there were out there.
100%.
Maybe Reece James it would have been.
Maybe I think
Reece James would be in their best 11.
I'm not sure he would.
James, a captain for me, would be in their best 11.
I'm not sure he would actually, but we might disagree on that. I think Malagusto's role, Rob, whether Malagusto does it and he becomes a number 8, Reece James can't do that, right? I get he's better as a defender, but in the balance of the team, and Cucurella, I think he was man of the match, Rob, on the match day.
Yeah,
he had a really good game on the left back. Anyway, all I'm trying to say is, Rob, that given this project at Chelsea and how young the team is and how kind of new they are, and they're still learning and the manager's still tinkering and still trying to figure bits out, I thought they were surprisingly close to Arsenal in terms of, I don't know, just the way that they play, physicality. They're at home, so you might expect them to have the advantage of that, which they did have that advantage, and didn't win the match. I just think that Chelsea are learning, Rob, a lot. I mean, I don't think they quite played the game that they really like to play against Arsenal, but that being said, Arsenal are a team that, in terms of experience, they're ahead of Chelsea. So from Chelsea's point of view, I just thought they're looking really good, and the manager, afterwards will be happy. I think the fans will be kind of happy, and wasn't there a quote from Maresca that Rebecca said on the show, Rob? Like, he was asked a question when he was interviewed for the job.
Yeah.
I think he said, now, whether you have me or not, this squad could dominate the Premier League for the next 5 to 10 years. So he was very much believing in the players that they got, the philosophy of going in with those young players, and he's done an excellent job. So just my takeaways of Chelsea are Madueke still learning, still not consistent, still a question mark on whether that position might be upgraded. Sounds harsh, but in terms of making a perfect Chelsea, Madueke's got to step up a little bit. He's only 22 years of age. Wasn't really a Nicholas Jackson game, Rob. And he's done better. And he will also improve, 23 years of age. Pedro Neto, outstanding. An outstanding game from Pedro Neto. And then Cole Palmer was a little quieter. We've seen enough of Lavia, and particularly Caicedo, I thought was really, really good. Malo Gusto does that number 8 position, goes back into the back 4. Moises Caicedo, Rob, I'm just going through the team, like Moises Caicedo, again, I thought had a big game, strong game, physical. He's playing, Rob, like, I feel like when he first went there, he's in his own head. He's playing in his own head. He's thinking about every little step he makes in a game, every pass he makes, every tackle he goes for, everything. He's thinking about it. Right now, he's totally out of his head, playing the game, tackling, closing down. He's much better now. Lavia's still finding his feet. And you've got Cucurella, Colwell and Fofana. Fofana, I think, is going to be a top-class centre-back. And back to Gusto and Robert Sanchez, a position I think they can improve. So there's still ways for them to go. But my point is, they were closer to Arsenal, Robert, than I expect them to be.
I wouldn't. I don't disagree with your point. I don't necessarily. I'm not that surprised with that. They're not that far from Arsenal because I think that's what has happened in 11 games, and we're talking about 11 games versus Mikel Arteta, what is in the fourth season now in charge. So a whole different kind of body of work. But such has been the progress, such has been the organisation, the stability, as you said, there's a pattern of play. I wasn't that surprised there wasn't that much between them because in real terms, if you look at the 11v11s, Arsenal are further down the track and do have a bit better quality. But this Chelsea team is dangerous. And it's interesting, you talked about, they played Arsenal. I remember we saw Chelsea live play Man City first game of the season. We were at Stamford Bridge, where they were decent. They got beat by a City team. Recently, not too long ago, Rob, was it a month or so ago, they played at Liverpool. And I remember saying after that game, I thought Liverpool's know-how was just better.
2-1,
The two teams, there wasn't loads of them. And then we've seen them today against Arsenal. So we're talking the 3 biggest, best teams in the country, who one of the 3 you feel will win the title. And Chelsea aren't that far behind. I still personally don't think they'll finish top of the pile come next May. No. I think that would be too much expectation. I think young players, Caicedo is a great example of, and as you talked about, maybe being in his head, still understanding the tactics, like wanting to do what the manager wants him to do first, but then playing his natural game. I think that's going to happen with a number of players. I thought today wasn't a Cole Palmer day. In some respects, I thought Arsenal did a good job of squeezing the space, not allowing him to get on the ball. And one of the things that my note I wrote down, Rob, is if you can squeeze and stop Cole Palmer, you take a big part of Nicholas Jackson's game away. Because Palmer can't get on the turn and look to thread those balls, then you don't see so much of Jackson making those vertical runs that are so dangerous. So, again, I thought it was probably on as even. Both want to play in a slightly different way. Both never quite got to the top of their game. And I thought a draw was about the right result. It's interesting, you talked about the wide areas. I've got Cucurella versus Saka. I'd have to say Cucurella won that one today. Yeah. I saw Neto versus Ben White. I'd probably say Neto won that area today. So in those wide areas, I'd have to say Chelsea probably won that. I want to throw a guy in, mate, who came on, I think, with 10 minutes to go of the game. I think when Saka came off. Gabriel Jesus, my friend. A good and firing Gabriel Jesus right now would give Arsenal a lovely option at the top end of the pitch. Whether he's central, and you do different with Havertz, whether you play him down one of the sides with his goal. He's been a title winner. He was brought in for big money. I've always been a big admirer of Gabriel Jesus. The moment I've been slightly disappointed in what he's brought to this group. I don't particularly see what he's giving them, what more they're getting when he does or doesn't play. And that's, I think, a miss, because there's 15 goals in a good Gabriel Jesus. This goal threat, there's hard work, there's sort of passion for the structure and doing the ugly side. Which
who's he play for, Rob? Who's he coming to the team today? The Arsenal team.
I'm not saying he comes in,
team.
but even I'm not saying even when he starts. I'm saying when he comes on. When he comes on, Rob, he doesn't affect the game. I don't really see him affecting the game in a way that somebody else experienced as good as him should. It should give Arsenal another option when he comes off the bench. I just felt, I was watching him today and I just thought, he's not really.
All right.
He's not really given Arsenal much more than they have when he's not playing, and I'm slightly disappointed in him for that, because I think he's a better player than that.
Yeah, I think he will be, $54 million he came in from Man City, and he's had some good moments. But can you imagine his confidence, Rob, where he thought he was going to go into that football club as a number 9, be the striker, play every week, score a ton of goals. Yeah. It hasn't quite happened for him again. Another club, and Kai Havertz has been a more reliable scorer. But I think your point's an excellent point. Off the bench, I just wonder if his confidence level, his demeanour, his motivation's a little lower, because he's not the guy that he expected to be at the club and others. I mean, other than, but it's a good point. Their bench, and that's why. When we think about Arsenal, where they are on the league table right now, they did have some injuries and the red cards and stuff totally derailed them. And there'll be a question mark, Rob, on whether the squad is big enough to handle that, where it should be. We've seen City before have injuries to their best players. They still go on and win titles. I went back, and I'll throw it up to you. In the pre-game show today, Rob, I kind of went back to the transfer window for Arsenal. Particularly thinking about when Odegaard's been out. And I think we should remember that, players that were allowed to leave, Emil Smith-Rowe, Eddie Nketiah, Fabio Vieira, Reece Nelson, the last two on loan. I'm not saying that they would be making the first team better, but they're kind of nice options to have. Odegaard's been out a while, Rob. I just think Smith-Rowe might have been, a useful player to make that difference like we saw Odegaard make today. And then the players that came in, Calafiori, okay, defensive cover. Mikel Merino is looking at the moment a bit average. Bit average, and again,
I think we all expected more, though, didn't we? We all expected a little bit more, maybe, from him.
And also Raheem Sterling, Robbie Earle. Raheem Sterling hasn't had the impact that we did. So those, if those guys don't make a big impact, then when you do lose some of the players in the first 11, I feel like that could be a problem. All that being said, enjoyed Arsenal's today, best team. For me, that's their best team. Timbers at left back, Ben White in the side, Odegaard, Rice and Partey. And I thought they looked more like Arsenal that we remember, that won 16 of the last 18 games in the Premier League last year, Rob. Sure. And to the big picture and the big question that we seem to disagree a little bit. I wonder what your take is in terms of the title race. And I'm not a big fan of that phrase, a title race. I mean, they're all in the race, but the
title race is can you win the title? If you're saying can you win the title, then both these teams are in it. Do I think Chelsea are actually in a title race? No. I think if they were to finish second or third, it'd be incredible for what this manager's done with where they are, the age of the group, and all the things that they've come together. I still think, even though they're on the same points, that you could say Arsenal are, because historically of what they've done, have been down the track the last couple of years. I would say they are, but points. It's not just based on points, Rob. It's based on more. But if that gap grows much more, if we start talking about 12-point gap, I'm telling you, they're not pulling 12 points back on Liverpool, or if Man City get back to form.
Those that said that it was a must-win game today for Arsenal.
I didn't buy the must-win. I didn't last week. I think it was last week I was on, and they said, "Oh, Arsenal out the race." They're not
way too early.
This what we've seen in this league, what we've seen in performances is no guarantees. Any team could lose back-to-back games, and all of a sudden a 6-point swing changes the whole look of everything. Both times said. I thought it was great to see Odegaard back, mate. I thought he
really good.
He's just the gloss, and he's just a finisher. It just looks smoother and better, and he created the first goal, and just his ability to knit the team together. The team look confident with him. You're starting to see the triangles down that right hand side. Considering Robbie's been out, 6 weeks? He's been out. Wow. I mean, at 60 minutes, you're thinking, have we got to protect him now? Make sure. I know these are international breaks, so a couple of weeks away. possibly.
He's going to get a break.
Not sure if he's going to.
He's not going away.
Get
Rob.
a break. Get himself in good shape and ready to go. But a credit to him, he's professional. I just thought he brings an element of composure and sort of consistency to the team that is just so good. And I don't think Odegaard's always been everybody's favourite. Some people don't quite see it, but I thought when you see him today and you see what Arsenal have looked like over the last few weeks, you definitely see a difference when he's in the team.
Just a last mention before we move on, Rob. Just Martinelli, Gabriel Martinelli, that's been a bit in and out, been a bit quiet, had a quiet season last year. It's an important goal for him today, isn't it? Given, we're all looking at how Arsenal can be better and why they're not closer to the league table. Is Martinelli good enough? Do you think he's got in him to get another 10, 12 Premier League goals this season? That's 4 now, I think, for him. There's 3. There's 3 for him now.
Yeah, listen, he's still a young player. He's still learning about the system. He's one of those, Rob, you talked about confidence, you talk about Gabriel Jesus now. He's one of them. If he gets 2 and 3, 3 and 4, if he can get a little run going, he's still got a massive threat. And with his pace on the outside, his ability to come in infield on that right foot, he could be important. There's an over-reliance a bit on Saka. And times at Havertz, you've got to get those 3 forward players all getting double figures plus, and he's going to be he's going to be an important one. So I think it's a good point.
All right, let's move it on, my friend. Really good game at Stamford Bridge. Wow. Pretty stunning game at the Amex and Brighton versus Manchester City, and of course it finished 2-1. Matt O'Reilly and João Pedro substitutes in second half, Rob, that turned the game around after Man City looked so good in the first half. Bernardo Silva talked about them being in a dark place. I should imagine it's a little darker now. What are you thinking? We'll get to Brighton, of course, because that was an excellent second half. But is it kind of, and there's a little the beginning of the end, there's a little talk about Pep's kind of like this cycle with this team. Are we getting way overboard, or before I throw it, I just felt, Rob, it's a bit different. This was a bit of a different loss than the ones that we see over the last couple of years when they lose. It's a counter-attack. They turn the ball over. This looks now, the last few games, there's 10 goals conceded in 4. The structure and there's quite a bit more wrong than we've seen maybe for many years under Pep. Injuries is listen, they don't need any excuses. A team won 4 straight and done what they've done, won the treble. They don't need excuses. Injuries, I mean, have been incredible. Now, again, you can go to numbers in the squad not being deep enough. That's the way he's always gone about his business, Rob. That's the way he does it,
and that isn't necessarily going to change. He talked about people actually, and I totally agree, people are liking it that Man City aren't winning, because whenever somebody is successful and wins everything, everybody else starts to go against them. Man United had it in their palm. People were watching Manchester United much to see them lose as those that were watching to see them win. What I've liked in the last 24 hours is I saw the captain Kyle Walker come out with a couple of things. He made a couple of great sayings. He said, we've enjoyed being champions. Now we have to show we're real champions. And he put out a lovely phrase, Rob, which the English will know more than our American viewers. And he said, it's time to put on our wellies and wade through the mud. And Wellingtons are Wellington boots and the big old boots. But he was almost saying, right, we're in it now. And we've shown we're a great team when we've got our fit players now. Now we've got to show we're a great team when things are going against us. And the ownership and just the raw truth of what he spoke and transparency, I thought I liked that. I also like how Pep took it on and said, it's welcome to a new world. It's a world he's not known. It's a world of 4 straight defeats in it for Pep Guardiola as a manager is unheard of. So he's saying he wants now him and his team to show the fight. And I like that as well, Rob. It's almost like if he can come back from this and win the 5th title, it's a title plus again. It's a bit like everybody's desperate to write this guy off. Everybody's desperate to write this team off.
Is there nothing different though, Rob, about the way it's playing now? Is there anything that would concern you?
There is a bit different, there is a little bit different, and I was trying to find the right way to say when Manchester City are playing well, we all see it, and we all know it, and there's something we I don't think people see that is so important to their game, and that is their ability and their work when they lose possession. Often they don't lose possession that often, but they get about the ball, Rob. They get your head down, they get tight, and they work incredibly hard to get the ball back to start those passing movements. And I think you said on air, and you're typically right, even when they've lost in the past, they still dominated possession. They still had more chances. They haven't taken them. The counter-attacks usually hurt them, or set pieces hurt them, and they've lost the game. Interestingly, and where I was trying to get to was, in the last few weeks, Rob, we've seen Manchester City's football not be great, not be at its best. Although a bit like yesterday, they created enough chances that they get them in the first half, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the other thing that's gone is a bit of that graft. Again, and I was listening to a few interviews now. Kyle Walker says we've gone 2 yards away from where we need to be, and that phrase hit me so clearly. Instead of closing down, Rob, and getting on top of somebody, they're now sort of sitting off a little bit, like let's see. And the moment you sit off at this level of player, you can get hurt. You can get hurt by Brighton. You can get hurt by Sporting Lisbon. You can get hurt by teams who you would expect to beat because players are technically better. And the moment that you're not at it, and Man City haven't been at the other side of the game, which they've done so well with the football. We all appreciate the beautiful football, but we don't always appreciate the work. Well, actually, some of that hard work is dipped. And they're not quite at that side of the game as well, Rob. And that's now given them a bigger problem. And I thought the way that Kyle Walker talked about it, again, I thought was spot on in terms of, that might be a little bit, we're champions. We've got injuries. We've not got Rodri. We're feeling a bit sorry for ourselves. It might be some of that. I don't know. But just the recognition of it for him and the team, I thought that they're going to be, they'll still be there and thereabouts, my friend. I have no doubt.
Yeah, I think we all know that they will get better and they will find their top form. Now, for them, it's just a matter of when that's going to be. Because if they still flounder a little bit over the next few weeks, that gap between them and Liverpool, if that gets too high, I said this right at the beginning of the season, if they get behind again, because they often do this, Rob. They often have a poor half of the season, first half of the season. And they have to come back with many points beyond. I just didn't know whether they could do it again. So I think we're in the same situation. It's just how long it's going to go on for and how long's the gap going to be. Obviously Arsenal are behind them, but Liverpool, if they keep going, then it becomes harder and harder for Man City. But they will get better. Now, from Brighton's point of view, Rob, really poor first half, so much better in the second half. I mean, that's what a manager. I mean, well done, Fabian Hürzeler. Half-time, changes to intensity. I couldn't believe it in the first half, where they were so passive against Man City. Too much respect for them. Second half, much more aggression, and the subs. Tons of subs. All subs we used. Gruder, McRiley, Balaba, Pedro. I mean, Jacob Mutter. I mean, that's the way to change a game with substitutes and intensity, and it was enough to win the game. I thought the manager did a great job.
Absolutely, and he talked about staying humble when they've got good victories, about make sure they're putting the work in. João Pedro is a exciting, intelligent footballer who can play in a number position, just makes them so much better. I've got to mention Carlos Baleba, Rob, the midfield player. I thought he was game changer.
He's a good player.
Wow,
he's really good.
Athletic, strong, creative, can play left foot, proper player. He was very close to my underappreciated player of the week. But I know your ones to watch. Keep an eye on this kid, by the way. He'll be another one off the 100 million valuation somewhere in the near future. But credit to Brighton. And isn't it interesting, Rob? Because any of our viewers who haven't got the chance to listen to Paul Barber, the CEO of Brighton, we had a podcast with him midweek, and he was talking about the big teams and, having to sometimes fall a little bit below them and know that, what they've got and you can't do it at the same level, and Brighton have to do it a different way with a different kind of manager, with a different profile of players. And what credit to him and the backroom staff, as well as Hürzeler and the team, but all those people at Brighton who contribute to what we see, Rob, who are out there scouting these players, finding these talents, giving the manager these kind of options, identifying Hürzeler as the right kind of guy who's going to replace De Zerbi, who I hear is fell out at Marseille. Surprise, Robert De Zerbi, I believe, is not happy with things. But yeah, it's great for Paul Barber and all that staff, really, for what they've done at Brighton. And we see it in a 2-1 win against the champions.
Yeah, and just a final thing to add to that is not all about recruitment for them. Jack Hinshelwood, 19-year-old midfield player, came through the academy. I think he started there when he's 8 or 9 years old. So not only are they doing great things in the market, they are also developing, creating their own players that have come through to play in the first team that will... I mean, Jack Hinshelwood, a very, very good footballer, can play in different spots.
The manager said, hasn't he? He's an England international in waiting.
Yeah, really good. So the Brighton story continues there. As I look at the league table, they're 6th. After that first 11 games, they are 6th in the Premier League after losing more players again. But to be fair, they did spend a bit of money, but that's a really good position for them right now.
If you're Liverpool now, Rob, or even Arsenal, if City were in flying mode, if you were Arsenal, you'd be probably thinking it's 3 years, we're not going to get it done. Isn't it time now? And I know we're going to talk about Liverpool next, but isn't it time now to really push on to at this precise moment? It's create as much space and gaps and points as you can. Because that machine will get going, and that machine will come after you again. It almost feels like they're the ill patient Man City. Don't send many get well cards. Like, crack on now. Let's crack on and get 12 points. Let's get 40 points. Whatever gap you can, because we've seen Arsenal, was it 8 points clear in the past and get drawn back in.
Yeah, absolutely right. So. Yeah, but a shocking, history. Pep to lose 4 games. He said afterwards, well, it's only 2 Premier League games on the spin. I mean, he's very defensive, Rob, and and he'll keep going. Well, we win, 4 on a spin, and we lose games as well, but we won a lot more. He's real sensitive to these questions, and he's going to get these questions because it was something.
Of course he is.
Yeah, very different. Anyway, but well done, Brighton. That's an incredible comeback in the second half. 2-1 victory for them, Man City. They will get better. I'm not sure Liverpool need to get much better, Robbie Earle. Liverpool we're going to now.
Well, don't say that to the manager. What? Every game after the game, Robbie tells us what they can get better on, which is a game. Gotta love that.
Yeah.
The standards he's setting.
Just a quick line, then I'll throw it to you, Rob. I thought this was very comfortable for Liverpool. I thought the game was a little slow. Both played in the Champions League. Villa are obviously limping along a little bit at the moment, trying to handle the Premier League and the Champions League. And Liverpool showed what they've showed. Very strong defensively. Front players that are absolutely at their peak, whoever it is. Darwin Núñez gets his goal. Gakpo's been in great form. Luis Diaz started left. He had a little bit of stint at the front at the end. Of course, Mo Salah gets a lovely goal. Composed finish later, almost towards the end of the game to make it 2-0. They're purring along. I still feel that there is improvement in there. Is there anything... Well, first off, what do you think to the game, Rob, and how impressed were Liverpool or disappointed in Villa?
Not overly disappointed in Villa, although I think, what everybody said and everybody's recognised it being in the 2 competitions is going to have its challenges. I thought it showed... these are things. The mix of the attacking intent options for Liverpool... And the element of control and defensive structure that's now in place. Yeah. Those 2 things at both ends of the pitch have Liverpool in a really comfortable place. I kind of saw a line where somebody said about the personality of Slot. The big thing was, what was he going to like following Jurgen Klopp? And he's just very controlled of himself. And it's almost like his team have taken his personality to get him more control of. There was very little drama. I know Keller had a couple of saves to make. He's reacted well off one. He put one over the top, set piece, which we know from Villa. There wasn't a lot of drama outside of that, Rob, considering, they swung Duran on, they've got Ollie Watkins, they've got Morgan Rogers, they've got threats.
Rogers had a chance, didn't he? Rogers had a chance second half.
Yeah, he did have a chance. But I wrote down one of the things, Rob, in terms of the win. I thought there was a bit of old and a bit of new. I thought the bit of old was a bit of counter-attack, which was classic Jurgen Klopp from the corners.
Yeah, very
Speed
quick.
at the moment is incredible. I thought the control element is a bit of the new, the Slot. There's less risk, Rob. There's less drama. It never looked like it was going to be a 3-2 win for Liverpool. It always felt like, you say, at 1 goal, it was about getting the second, killing it off. Mo Salah is Mo Salah, does what he scores all assists in every game, it almost seems. And I thought it's just a credit that it's like a ticking along purring nicely, but with more to come, Rob. I still think, like you, one of my notes was, there's more to come from this team. They're not at peak. We're not at peak levels yet.
Yeah, I think we all look at it as well in terms of the title race and where they are on the league table right now. 5 points clear of Manchester City. They've got a couple of injuries, isn't it? It's Diogo Jota's out. Alisson, the goalkeeper, of course. I mean, Kevin Kelleher continues to look so good. So good. I mean, he's well protected in that Liverpool
incredible
goal.
For a number 2, isn't it? To have
really
that,
good.
To be able to rely on that.
Yeah, and our mate Tim Howard's sort of saying that he thinks this might be the last year you can keep hold of a goalkeeper like that, Rob. Like he's proven himself that
he's got to go, and
that he might really kind of start to demand something happens. Whether I don't know. It'd probably be leaving because they ain't going to leave Alisson out or whatever. But he's ready to play. He's going to be one of the better goalkeepers in the Premier League. I mean, other than that, I guess we look at blips like, well, what can go wrong? And like you, there's a composure, there's a calmness about the team, the way that they play. It's absolutely obvious the way that many players in this team are improving. That's not even a consideration. You know what's funny, Rob? Before the game, I always write the numbers down on my teams going into a match, and we put the goals and assists on there. Trent Alexander-Arnold going into this game. 10 appearances, no goals, 1 assist, right? Now, that's average standard for a defender. But how good the team playing? You don't need Trent to be this.
It's not Trent.
I mean, he's a different player this year, and I kind of enjoying what he's doing. Now, he still makes key passes, he still makes beautiful crossfield balls, and his quality in that. But he's not having to be the guy that makes all these assisting plays. It's different, and it's the strength of the team where he doesn't have to do that. He's much more cautious. His heat map is a lot closer to his own goal. It's a lot more narrow into his defenders. Similarly, Robertson played on the left. They got this funny little, narrow little shape, which is a slot thing. And that's just an example of the team being a really more efficient team and not have to kind of rely on, certain players. I mean, Mo Salah's. He's been so great, but the others have scored goals as well. I think the midfield is the only place, I've said it a few times, I thought it was another example, Rob, where still a bit, Curtis Jones was good, Szoboszlai comes on, and McAllister.
There's a bit of rotation there, Rob, though, which at times is keeping people on the toes to a certain degree.
Alexis McAllister's not done it yet. I mean, he's been fine.
Not quite.
But there's more to come from him.
That's where we think they can get better, aren't they? I mean, the top of the table, as you say, and I think they can get better. And I'm actually going to go to my underappreciated player of the week, mate. And I'm glad so far you've talked all about Liverpool and you haven't given him a mention. It's Ibrahim Konate.
Oh, yeah.
The big centre-back. Ibu, my friend.
Yeah. I did make a note of him, yeah.
He's, Virgil van Dijk's the beauty and Ibu's the beast, right? And he's very rarely talked of. He's very rarely appreciated, I think, in a defence that's looking super tight again. Back to the best of Liverpool when they're difficult to break down. His raw physicality, speed, athleticism, defensive mind is a brilliant foil for Virgil van Dijk. When he gets into that right backish slot when Trent pushes forward, Rob,
which is less so. Which is less than last year.
Yeah, or when there was the Matip's there, or Gomez plays, and you're always a little bit unsure whether they can deal with moving out a little bit to a wider areas. He deals with it, Rob. Massive threat from set pieces, good in both boxes. Looks like he's got a great personality. Every time I see social media, he looks like the players love him, and he's a big part of what they do. He's just one of those unsung heroes who could be a massive key if Liverpool are to go further and go close to winning title or winning title. That partnership with Van Dijk, my friend, could be every bit as important as Mo Salah's goals or Gravenberch's defensive role in front of him. And Ibrahim Konate, he's 25 years of age, French international, great age, great time. Looks like he's free of injuries, Rob, playing with a bit of belief and confidence now. And I just think, he's one of them who rarely gets a mention if we talk about Liverpool. I just thought yesterday, remember he went one-on-one with Morgan Rogers one time. Morgan Rogers went to run him about 20 minutes in, and he pushed it, and he just got there, mate, with real power and poise, and got the ball and dealt with it, and it was like, well played. That's what Liverpool also need. For all the good footballers and all the creativity, they need somebody at the back who just wants to defend and stop goals, and he is very much that guy.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And another example of a player that was a little bit in and out with Jurgen Klopp. And I don't know how much of that was injuries, and that's why you make a good point when, if he can say injury-free, this is what you're going to get. If he play week in, week out, he has got the attributes to be a absolutely outstanding, like an outstanding central defender alongside Virgil van Dijk. So that's definitely part of the story of Liverpool this year. It's definitely part of the new manager in terms of trusting and having confidence in a defender. There's no question now what the best centre-backs are at this football club, where last year we didn't really know. It was Joe Gomez, sometimes it was Konate. Kwanzaa has done very well last year, which Jurgen Klopp really liked. But I love your shout. And, at the game now, Rob, when he does a good thing, you're starting to hear the crowd sing his name. Yeah. And... so underappreciated up to a certain point, but all of a sudden it's starting to come through. And this is what we're discovering now. And this is why we do this podcast, because each week we have a bunch of extra data and evidence to kind of, City are this or Liverpool. So we're learning stuff all the time. And the more time's going on, the more that certain players within Liverpool Football Club are showing their improvement. And Ibrahima Konate is a good example. So, comfortable win for them, Rob. Bit disappointing for Villa. Just a quick line on them before we move on, because they have done really, really well. I thought Morgan Rogers was their outstanding player. Should have scored right after the break. Were they a little passive? So I know I just thought they looked a little tired, a little passive, a little like, we're losing here, but it's kind of...
it's difficult for them. I mean, they had a brilliant start to the season. They've had, all the Champions League wins. They were going well in the league. I just think it's a case of, to take that next step, to continue to be at that level, to be the Man Cities, the Liverpools, the Arsenals. It takes a step, Rob, and that sometimes takes a little bit of learning. It takes a little bit of maybe the manager tweaking, maybe a look at freshening things up now and then. Whether does he start Duran one week and put Watkins on the bench just to give it a different look and feel. He's got wide options. Buendia's coming back now, and people. So I just think it's a case of, this team have just about got used to being talked of as a top six team and being part of the Champions League. And I think it's almost understanding what that is week in and out and trying to deliver. I thought it was a bit of not a bad day, but I thought it was a bit of an off-colour day for Villa. Yeah. And I thought against a Liverpool team who are banging in confidence of what they're doing at the moment.
All right, so good day again for Liverpool. Not a great one for Aston Villa. Let's move on to... a bunch of the other games, Rob, and the first one we
Tottenham Hotspur is an interesting one, my friend.
Go for it.
Tottenham 1, Ipswich Town 2. Ipswich go 2-0 up. Tottenham come back with a Bentancur header in the second half, but can't quite get the job done. A Tottenham that can show you against Villa, was it a 4-1 win against Villa, where we're purring about what certainly the second half of that game. And then we see a Tottenham team, Rob, who it's almost, and again, I've said before, I hate the Spursy thing. I hate that, the so inconsistent, week in, week out. Well, that is the team at the moment. That is who they are. They conceded, I think it's the 14th time, Rob, since start last season, they've conceded the first goal in a game. Right, now, I know that they'll have the way they play, and Ange's going to stick with what he's going to do, and they're going to push forward, and that. Like last week, they go 1-0 down, they end up winning 4-1. You can't do that every week. You can't rely on that every week. Some weeks you've got to say, we've got to keep a clean sheet. We've got to nick one goal. The one goal we score might be enough to win us a game. Ange, again, was pretty down afterwards and talked about it. He's got to look at things. I just don't know where we are, Rob, with Spurs and Ange at the moment. It almost seems as though it's just going to continue. There's going to be some good days, some not so good days, and that's going to be Ange's management.
Yeah, I was interested because Kieran McKenna, Rob, in his press conference the day before, sort of said about Spurs and the intensity, and like the data says that they sprint more than anybody else. They have the most intense kind of back to front, high energy football. Now, we've seen this before in this Premier League, and it's not easy to keep that week in, week out. And
Bielsa-esque, innit? Bielsa.
Yeah. And if there's one thing I made a note of this game initially was like, did they take Ipswich for granted? Because there was a flatness about Tottenham. There was maybe arrogance is a too strong a word, but there was maybe an expectation that this is Ipswich. Them won. We're playing really well. We're at home. We've got a big crowd behind us. We'll find a way to win. And we know more than anything else of this league that if you don't respect every single game, every single team, then you can come unstuck. Ipswich Town, Robbie Earle had a really good game plan, and of course we have all the tactical cameras up there. And Ben Johnson was playing, right? They have the normal back four. Well, Transabi came in, and then Ben Johnson. So I'm like, what are they going to do 5 at the back? They've never really done that before, like forever, really, and this season or certainly last season. So I did put them in a back 5, but it wasn't really a back 5. Ben Johnson played as a right-sided midfield player with a main responsibility to track Destiny or Doggy. Those fullbacks that come in and outnumber teams, they had markers. Smodics on one side, Ben Johnson on the other side. And fair play to Kieran McKenna, Rob, to come up with a game plan, something different, to try and mitigate the dominance of those fullbacks. And I thought it worked brilliantly. That with the lower energy from Tottenham, the expectation that this is going to be an easy victory, you get a result like you got. And gosh, I just think this was really disappointing for Tottenham. Really disappointing because you can sort of, they set the last weekend's second half performance. You say, well, that's it. There's been some blips, but there you go. That's it. And then put that afterwards is going to deflate everybody there.
It does feel like there was a bit, and you make a point like, it's Ipswich. We won down in Ipswich. We'll score 3 second half and we'll win 3-1. I got to go to somebody as well, Rob, and I was only saw bits of this game. I didn't see it in entirety, so couldn't give a full overview. But I think it was 80 odd minutes on the clock. James Maddison get brought on, and I'm like, and I think we've touched on that. Like, where are we with James Maddison's Spurs career? That at home to Ipswich, you're having to come off the bench for the last 5 or 6 minutes to try and create something to get us a draw. From a guy who was England regular, was one of the first names on the team sheet at Spurs, had started like house on fire, was a big part of their creativity. We saw and utilised him in lots of good ways. I almost feel like, I don't know if there's been a fallout, Rob, if there's something the manager's seen he doesn't like. I mean, they're 2-0 down. In the first half, they need to get back in the game, and you leave it till the last 5 minutes to chuck on James Maddison.
Well, I can't remember the game, Rob. Remember the game when Maddison was playing in the middle of the park? Because Kulusevski now is a midfield. He's one of the 3. Yeah. He's not one of the forward packet. He's one of the 3. And in terms of the balance, Maddison was playing. They were struggling. He took Maddison off. He brought Papsar on, and they look more solid. And really, when you look at balance and blend, I get it, right? I get it. Now, that's when the results were inconsistent. They made the change. That might help us be a bit more protective, a bit more pragmatic on a counter-attack. Yeah. Well, it hasn't worked. Like, that change has been made. Papsar played again today, and against Ipswich Town, you still conceded 2 goals.
Yeah, still conceded,
2 goals. So maybe Papsar Maddison wasn't a problem. Maybe the fullbacks have to be a bit more cautious. I did understand why he wasn't playing, and Kulusevski's played so well that you're not gonna leave him out for Maddison. It will come up again now whether they can play with Maddison and Kulusevski, because they still conceded goals with a more defensive-minded player in replacement of Maddison. So I think Ange Postecoglou will be pulling his hair out. He ain't got a ton of hair, but I think he's going to pull out what he's got, because he feels like he's getting close to the ideal blend and balance of the team to fall flat again. They're looking to take their 10th place.
At some point, though, Rob, and at some point you have to trust your players and what. So if Maddison has an off day, or tactically the manager thinks it's a day when we're playing Man City and we're not going to have enough balls, so I need Papsar in.
Okay.
But then I go back to when I play Ipswich at home, I go back to Kulusevski. At some point you've got to trust in what you believe, and I'm getting the sense I'm not sure that Ange is trusting in what he believes at the moment.
Well, he is though, Rob. I mean, he's trusting. That's maybe his problem, that he's still trusting his front foot. We're going to get forward. We're going to build up with 2 players at the back. We're going to take a risk.
You know what I've thought about that.
I know you have. And I wondered if there might be some kind of real subtle tweak, and there hasn't been. Yeah. So I think he is trusting it. Maybe the personality is not quite sure, but listen, I still think it's a work in progress. He would still have my trust as a football club and as a director of football. It's just like, come on, Ange, we're learning now. You've had last season. We are where we are now. We're mid-table. We're 10th in the table right now, which is not really good enough, not what we expected. Let's see if we can make some subtle changes to be a bit more consistent, Rob. I mean, they're capable of doing some brilliant things. They're also capable of really disappointing performances. It's a bad day for Tottenham.
Yeah. League Cup gives their focus, my friend. Get that League Cup
win something. You always win something in the second season. You always win. Yeah.
Molyneux, big game down at the bottom end of the table. Wolves 2, Southampton 0. Wolves get their first win in the season under Gary O'Neill. I think we've all seen Wolves and generally have said, they're better than the points, they're better than the position they're in, but they are where you are. This became a huge game. Got early goals, Sarabia with an early goal, and then Cunha with a nice finish on 51, 2-0. Clean sheet, and a nice sort of international break for Gary O'Neill coming up, knowing he's got his first win, and a little bit of that pressure just taken off him.
Yeah, I think it is. I like Gary O'Neill, and I think he's a bright coach, he's a thinking man's coach. Maybe early on he overthought it a little bit in some of the kind of the ways that they played and conceded goals. It did have a really difficult start, but a massive win for Wolves. A massive win for Wolves. A massive win for Gary O'Neill. They're still banging trouble. They're still second from the bottom of the table, but much better. Yeah. I'm going to jump straight away to my underappreciated performer, Rob, and it is the player from Wolves that created the first goal and scored the second one. Matheus Cunha. Yeah. Now, it's not just, this is a time for me to talk about him because he had such a big game, but I think anybody who watches Wolves over a period of time will realise what a kind of bit of a gem he is, because no matter how they're playing, he has got an attitude towards the game with a high energy. He runs forever from outside left to centre forward to number 10 to being in midfield. Dynamic player, quality player. He showed that particularly with the strike for the second goal, and I think he is underappreciated. I think he's a better player than a team that's in the bottom three of the league table. He could play in many places higher in this league at bigger clubs or doing better right now in the Premier League. But I just wanted to mention him today after that performance again because I like him. I think he's a really good player. He's not one of those young ones. It's like not one to watch. It's just I think he's a lot better than what we think. And if he was to garnish a little bit of interest in bigger clubs higher in the league, I would not be surprised because I think he is a little underrated. Yeah. But really good for Wolves.
It's a good shout. It's a good shout, mate. It's a really good shout. Player. 25 years of age.
Yeah.
You see him left, you see him right, you play him central, he can play in the 10. It looks like he's committed to it, Rob. The manager's under a little bit of pressure. He looks like he wants to roll his sleeves up and get at it. I think it's 5 goals, 2 assists. I think it's a really good shot. I did Wolves recently and I had to pick a man of the match, and I picked him out as my man of the match for what he did. But yeah, he's a talented footballer, and there's been a conveyor belt, hasn't there, of players who've got, the Jotas and the likes who've left this football club, Nunes, and gone on. And, not that we'd want to sell Wolves players for Wolves fans, but he's one of those that others might look at and say, if they were to go down, you think he's got plenty of suitors back in the Premier League. Big day for Manchester United, my friend, ahead of Ruben Amorim, the last game for Ruud van Nistelrooy in charge. 3 wins and a draw for the great Dutchman, the ex-Manchester United player. Good 3-0 win for United. So 3 goals, clean sheet. Bruno with a goal. I think one went down as an own goal, Christensen own goal, and Garnacho with a lovely bending finish. Ruud's done what he needed to do, mate, as an interim, and he's done a great job. I mean, I heard on the show there's a bit of talk that Amorim's work permit might not be ready. It might be sort of later in the week when he actually takes reins. I know we've had this discussion and people say, and this, Ruud sort of saying he's waiting to hear what the next instructions are, but I wouldn't know if keep him around the club, mate. If I can till the end of the season at least. Just the mood change, just the ability he might have, the relationship might have with the people individually, that he can just go and put his arm around them, can have a chat to them. I know managers now, Rob, and I heard somebody telling me it's Man City where Pep has this thing where each sort of assistant coach or coach has 4 or 5 players who are under their watch, and you build up a bit more of a personal relationship. And then through that, if there's anything Pep needs to know, the coach goes to Pep. I just look at some of these players with Ruud and think, what an advantage that would be for a new manager coming to a big club with all that's going on, just to have somebody on your side who's close to the players. I don't think it's a threat. I don't think it would harm either party, but we'll have to wait and see if that happens.
I revert to my previous answer. It depends on depends if he wants to do that. I absolutely agree with you. What a player! What a guy to have as a stable of players coach. It's just what his ambitions are, Rob. I don't know whether he wants to get back in as the top man and be a manager somewhere else again. You know, we just don't know that, and we'll find what Amorim wants to do with his backroom staff. But absolutely to him to mentor some of these players, the younger forwards, is a brilliant idea. And all talking about younger forwards, you know, Ahmad had a big game, Rob, and he got the start. Rashford got the start. Garnacho comes off the bench. Garnacho's best position, as we know, is wide left. Ahmad is wide right. I do like those two. And when Amorim comes in, Robbie Earle, what is he going to do with those front players? What's he going to do? Because you can't have them all in there. Right. If he is the same system, there's going to be one centre forward, which will probably be Højlund, and then he's got two players that are kind of not so much wingers, but a little closer, and the rest of it is sixes and wing backs and so. What it's going to be fascinating to see whether he goes with that and who he's going to go with. Bruno Fernandes is going to be one of those guys. It's just whether on the other side of that front three he's going to go for he's got to go for a winger. Is it going to be Garnacho, Ahmad, Rashford? That's the bit I'm most looking forward to.
I'm not against looking. I don't think he might be a Rashford down the centre of the pitch, my friend.
Maybe.
You know, and Højlund to be the understudy to come off and learn thing, but it also frees him up then one of the other spaces to get like a Diallo or Garnacho in with Bruno. But as you say, we'll see. All that to look forward to. Actually, when we get back after the international break, it'll be a very different Manchester United with Ruben Amorim in charge. So lots to look forward to there. Nottingham Forest were going so well, mate, but it just got undone by a Newcastle team that looked like they're sort of hitting a bit of form. Nottingham Forest 1, Newcastle 3. Maria with the leading goal, and then Newcastle come back second half with Isak, Joe Ellington, and Harvey Barnes off the bench doing what Harvey Barnes does. Good away win this for Newcastle. A little bit of disappointment for Nuno and his team who are going so well. You know what happens, you win the manager of the month, you know your team are going to lose this game.
Newcastle United, Robbie, I'm just saying this, 1 point away from third place. Same games played. 1 point away from third place.
I know they're your little favourite.
They're my little dark horse to finish in the get up
top
there.
4.
Yeah, to finish in the top 4. They're my little dark horse, given the European football thing, and they can put, as long as all those front players, Isak gets another goal, just kind of drop down around the penalty box, he stuck it in. So, one to watch, Newcastle United. Okay, let's move it on, Rob. It's the last couple of games now, 2 or 3 games. Brentford. By the way, what's going on at Brentford? What is going on at GTech? Like, there's a million goals scored.
It's a goal fest. The GTech is the goal tech. It's the goal tech. That's
every time I do that highlight, I'm like, oh, here we go again. Like, one goal, they're ahead. No, then they're behind. No, they're ahead. No, it's like, wow. So, again, an incredible game. Bournemouth went ahead, I think, twice. I don't know. But it's a lot of goals at that stadium. They come back and win 3-2.
3-2.
Wow. So Brentford, you know, comfortably in mid-table. Fun team to watch.
11th, 16 points. Well,
well done.
Well done. Thomas Frank and his team.
Ivan Toney going. Exactly right, yeah.
And one of the stories of the season, mate, and we got another last on the list. It's Fulham.
Yeah, it is.
Palace at home against Fulham. Smith Rowe with the first goal, and Harry Wilson comes off the bench again and gets one and had a goal ruled out. It would have been another brace for him coming off. There was a brilliant social media piece of Marco Silva. I don't know if you saw talking to his players after the win.
No.
Midweek. If you get a chance, have a look at it, mate. It's 2 or 3 minutes of absolute gold of Marco Silva talking to his team, how important it is. They keep doing what they're doing. That's why they got the result they got. He apologises for Harry Wilson not giving him more time on the pitch, but when he comes off, it was brilliant. If you get a chance, have a look at it. But Fulham, mate, 7th place, 18 points. You know, 1 behind Arsenal and 1 behind Chelsea, with a manager who's had to kind of pull this group of players together. And I said, well, we did the game on Monday, and I was saying to Carla was doing was hosting. I said, in some respects, you look through this team, and they would be, inverted commas, there's a lot of what you call rejects, players who are not wanted by other clubs or are never going to play enough games. And Marco Silva's moulded this group, mate, and put them together, got good experience and youth, really nice balance around the team. He's done an absolutely incredible job. And just so pleased to see them getting a bit more credit, because they're one of the teams that everybody just talks beyond Fulham. or be mid-table, or they're punching above their weight, and that's down to the manager and the work that he does on the training ground.
And also, Rob, it's a lesson that sometimes players that don't hit it big at the big clubs, there's absolutely a really good career somewhere else for them. You just said it.
Right.
Andres Pereira wasn't really wanted at Manchester United. Emil Smith-Rowe was allowed to leave Arsenal Football Club. Sander Berge is a little different. I love those three midfield players, by the way. Yeah. Love those Sander Berge, watch him.
Iwobi,
watch him in Iwobi and Nelson, players that weren't good enough at Arsenal. I just like the way that they play. This manager is very experienced now in the Premier League, and the club has put, they lost good players. Joe Palhinha left the football club for Bayern Munich. Tosin, they left him for Chelsea.
Mitrovic, the main man, Mitrovic.
The season before.
To Saudi.
Yeah, so they've lost a lot of good players, and yet they're still doing what they're doing. Really well done, Fulham, and a club that's getting, one of those that's a really well-run club with a very good manager.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, absolutely another classic drama weekend in the Premier League on a weekend when Pep loses 4 in a row for the first time as a manager. It was Liverpool who were the big winners this weekend as Chelsea and Arsenal draw in the big London derby. Next, we skip a week with the international break coming up, but we're back the week following, which is Sunday, November the 24th. And there's a certain game at the Etihad as City host Spurs. It's going to be a fascinating matchup for both teams and both managers. But for now, I'm Earle. He's Mustoe together with the two Robbies. Thanks for watching and listening. Be safe, stay healthy. It's a good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Good night.
Good night.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And if you want even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.